Chris here from Forge Valley Roasters, and today I thought it would be cool to show you a day in the life and behind the scenes look of how me and my wife Tash go about running the business. If you're into coffee roasting, or you're thinking about starting your own business, or maybe you're just interested in how we run ours, hopefully you'll find this interesting. So we run our roastery right from our property here in East Ayton, under the watchful gaze of Ayton Castle there in the background just now. We're right at the edge of the Forge Valley Woods. And when we started this business from the house, it was a bit of a gamble because we weren't sure if we could convert a space to the purpose as well as get all the approvals that are needed. But we did. And in retrospect, I think that was a really good idea because we don't have the risk and overhead that commercial space would bring. And it also helps us to maintain a healthy ish work life balance. I still have my day job, for example, although Tash is almost dedicated full time to this now. So she's already been in there for an hour packing up some retail orders. I dropped my son off at football camp and we kicked the day off with a morning brief. So I'm just firing up the roaster. That's going to take 30 or 40 minutes to warm up. And then whilst that happens, I'll load up some green beans. And then that's the first roast ready. And once they're in there in the hopper at the top, I will also check the moisture content of the green beans using the moisture sensor, which is what you see in my hands there. And that just gives me a baseline for the day so I can adjust my roast profiles accordingly. Tash is just checking the orders that we've got to fulfill. These will be from our customers through our Shopify website. And then we've also got our weekly wholesale orders that we're going to need to fulfill too. And we've got a big event coming up at Thornton the Dale, and we're going to need stock for that too. So it's going to be a busy day of roasting. We're going to compare everything that we think we need versus what Tash already bagged up this morning. And the difference between the two is what I'm writing down on that bag there, just each of the origins and how many kilos I think I'm going to need to roast for the day. Once we've agreed on that, Tash will get packed up and leave me to it. And then I will do a little bit of prep before getting going. So you'll see here in the background in just a second, I've got these white tubs. That's where the roasted coffee beans go. And I'm just putting a piece of masking tape on there with today's date. So when Tash comes to bag up, there's no confusion about which date things were roasted. Whilst that finishes warming up, I will head outside for a snack. So Tash is almost full time at the roastery, but with whatever spare time she does have left, outside of the family, of course, she spends it in the garden, which is a bit of a passion project. So we've got an allotment, I guess you'd call it, at the edge of the garden, and Tash grows pretty much everything you could imagine. We've got potatoes, sweet pea, onions, garlic, leeks, you name it. My favourite is, of course, the garden peas, which you can see me raiding here along with our dog Mabel, who loves them just as much as I do. They are freaking delicious at this time of year. So I'll pay the tax and then I will get back to roasting and kick off the first roast of the day. Just plugging in the laptop here into the roaster with the USB cable. It's about 10 a.m. now, and I'll get the green beans in. As soon as they're roasting, I will load the hopper up with another load of green beans for the next roast. There's no reason you can't have beans in the hopper, beans in the drum, and beans in the cooling tray all at the same time for maximum productivity. I've got Artisan and OneNote on my laptop running at the same time. So Artisan is an open source piece of software for tracking the roast and making sure I maintain consistency from roast to roast. And then OneNote is where I keep all of my roasting notes, so I can keep markers that I need to follow throughout the roasting process. I'm checking the beans as I roast them here. That's what I'm doing now. Just pulling out the sampler and I'm looking at the beans. I'm smelling them as well to see how they're progressing, make sure everything is happening as expected. It takes about 15 to 16 minutes to roast beans, and given that this is a 5 kilo roaster, I load it with 3.65 kilos a time. That's the optimum size, I think, for this roaster. And after accounting for that moisture loss that happens, about 15% of the roast weight is lost in moisture content. 3.6 kilos comes out about 3 kilos roasted. So in an hour, I can get about 3 good roasts done. I'm just using the peephole at the top there to listen to the roaster. It's quite noisy, and I'm listening for first crack. That's when the beans have heated up so much they've expanded and started to crack, and it makes an audible popping sound. And that's a signifier that the beans are almost ready to come out. So I'll slow time down here back to normal speed so you can see the drop. Beans are going to come out. They're coming out at about 230 214 degrees centigrade. At this point, they go straight into that cooling tray, and the hot air is sucked outside via a fan, which you can hear in the background a little bit. Those arms are just rotating the beans. They cool down in about 3 minutes, so it's pretty quick. I drop the beans out into one of the food grade containers, and I just weigh them to check that moisture content loss I mentioned earlier. And I'll log that in the roast profile on the laptop, and then I will kick off the next one. Whilst that happens, I start the horrendous process that I like the least of removing defects. So I lean down next to that 210 degree roaster, and I meticulously pick out every bean I don't like the look of. It could be cracked ones, burnt ones that didn't roast properly. I won't get all of them, there's always one more, but Tash bagged up the orders, and so we get another couple of times to check and remove more defects as we find them. But hopefully you guys will never get one in your bag, and if you do, I'm sorry. You can see I do my best. I clear them out into one of those food grade tubs I labelled earlier, and then that is a roast complete. I'll take lunch down by the river. So we have the River Derwent running through the bottom of our garden, and that roastery is roasting, no pun intended, and noisy. And after a few back-to-back roasts, it's good just to come out, sit in the fresh air. We've got a weir in the river, which is a bit of peaceful white noise, which I much prefer to the drone of the roaster. So I just take a minute here and have a nice lunch, and then back into the roastery for the last roast of the day. I've skipped ahead a little bit here because you don't need to see the same roast back to back. It's about 1:45 now. Last set of beans are in the roaster. Whilst that happens, I will start cleaning down. So I'll sanitize all the surfaces, all the tools that I've been using. I'm going to give the floor a quick vacuum and just pick up all the shells and all that stuff that drops throughout the day. I'm very much a little and often kind of character. I think there are some jobs that have to be done in the roastery, and some of them that are easier to do frequently rather than save them up to one big job. Otherwise it can mount up and you just never find the time to get it done, and then you've got an issue with maintenance or something that you've got to go and fix. So the beans are just finishing up, and you can see me checking for sight, smell and so on. I've got the cooler going, drop them out. That's that one done. I'm going to leave the roaster door open whilst I close down. So I've got the gas flame off. I've got the roaster door open. I boost the fans to max. I need the roaster to cool down to about 60 degrees to protect the metal shrinkage whilst that happens. You can see me scraping the cooling tray there, removing all the chaff that gets stuck in the little holes. Wipe down all the surfaces one last time. Give the cooling tray a quick wipe down, get rid of all the chaff and dust. You can see just below the cooling tray there, that's what I'm vacuuming up. That's where the chaff falls down into the container that holds it there. And then there's a chaff filter at the back, which you can see we are micro roaster in name and nature. I really got to get down on my knees and under all the pipes to get that all cleaned out. But chaff is like the skin that comes off of the beans as it's roasting. You have to clear that out every 3 or 4 roasts, otherwise it's a massive fire hazard. It's really hot, but it also sticks to you. It's dusty, it's horrible stuff. Anyway, I take that out, and then Tash puts that on the compost for the aforementioned garden project. I'll give everything else another hoover up, get everything shut down properly now, give my hands a wash. We're done and dusted. I'll get out of Tash's way, and then she'll start boxing up. So she's just measuring out our wholesale orders here, I think. So they're kilo bags, and she's going to weigh them out. She's going to put them into kilo bags, and then she's going to seal them. You can just see me here in a second telling Tash to give us a money shot of the finished product, but there we go. So filling up the bags, give it a little seal, and then that's it, done. We'll load them up into the car and pick up the son from football camp. It's about 3:20 here. Off we go. Apologies for the laundry. And then we'll make our deliveries. I caught the last one here about 4 p.m. This is to a wonderful business in Scarborough, the Clock Tower, right at the top of the hill overlooking the ocean. So an amazing place if you ever visit. This is Nova Coffee, and it's Cameron that runs this business. Lovely guy, amazing business. He takes our Hinderwell, which is our signature blend, and he sells it well as a wonderful espresso and cappuccino, of course, as well as our retail 250-gram bag. So hopefully that's been useful and you've enjoyed that. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see you next time.